A small boat moved across the sea, not with purpose, but with surrender. It carried no flag, no name carved on its side, only a soul who had once fought the waves and now waited. This is not a story about reaching the shore. This is a story about trusting the wind. The traveler in that boat had once believed that struggle was enough. They studied the stars, mapped the currents, tightened every rope. And for a while, the effort seemed noble. But storms came anyway. Plans unraveled anyway. The stars disappeared behind the clouds, and the boat began to drift. At first, they resisted. They rowed against tides that did not care. They shouted du'as into the wind, hoping that perhaps the louder the prayer, the faster the rescue. But the sea is not moved by panic, and Allah is not hurried by fear. So eventually, the traveler let go. Not out of despair, but out of recognition. The boat was never in their hands to begin with. They placed the broken oars down and whispered into the mist, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil. Allah is sufficient for us, and He is the best disposer of affairs. And in that whisper, something shifted. It was not the sea. The waves still rose. It was not the sky. The clouds still hid the sun. What changed was the heart. Tawakkul is not the promise of ease. It is the peace of knowing that even hardship is written with wisdom. It is the calm in the chaos, the stillness inside the storm, the knowing that outcomes are never random when they are written by the most merciful. Some believe that trust in Allah is passive, that it is the act of those who have stopped trying. But true tawakkul only begins after the trying is complete. It is not laziness. It is letting go after doing all that can be done. It is handing over the steering wheel, not because you have no direction, but because you know He sees further than your eyes ever could. And the Qur'an, when Maryam alayhi salam stood in the agony of childbirth, she was told, "Shake the trunk of the palm tree, fresh dates will fall upon you." Not because the tree would feed her by her strength, but because effort, even in weakness, is honored by the divine. So too did the traveler once shake the oars, but now it was time to be still. Night fell again. The sea was ink black, the mist like a veil across the horizon. But in the heart of the boat, a lantern still flickered. Not to light the path, but to say, you are not alone in this darkness. And somewhere in that silence, the soul remembered. Allah does not abandon His servants. He does not forget the aching. He does not ignore the whispered du'as made at sea, or in bedrooms, or in broken sujood. Tawakkul is not built in books. It is built in moments like these, when there is nothing left to hold, and yet you hold on. To Him. There were no dreams that night, only breath, only stillness, only the sound of waves rocking a soul that had finally submitted. And then, before dawn, the boat slowed, not because it reached land, but because the wind had calmed. And on the surface of the sea, floating without reason, was a single white flower. Not a rescue, not an answer, just a sign. The traveler took it in their hands, wet and trembling, and smiled. Not because all was fixed, but because they now understood. When you trust Allah, you do not need all the answers. You just need His gaze upon you. The sea did not offer explanations. The wind did not whisper secrets. But something inside said, continue. So they did, not with oars, but with tawakkul. Each hour that passed was not a delay, but a divine decision. every drift a decree, every pause a hidden mercy. And when the sun finally returned, the traveler didn't search for the shore. They just closed their eyes and said, "O controller of the winds, carry me wherever you will. I do not need the destination if you are with me." The boat became a place of worship. The waves, like dhikr. The mist, like the curtain of Laylatul Qadr, where things are written unseen. And the soul felt light. Some spend their lives chasing control, trying to fix every outcome, write every chapter with their own hands. But the servant who places their pen down and says, "Ya Wakil, you write this for me," they taste a freedom that this world cannot offer. Night returned, as it always does, but the fear did not. And in the stillness, the flower still rested in the boat, alive. Not because the sea had spared it, but because Allah had willed it. And upon the traveler's lips, softly, like a secret only the heart knows, "Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil." Again and again, like waves against the wood.